Okay, so we're live. I'm going to basically be catching you guys up on our progress that we've had throughout the week on pandemic and just generally the maps and all the other stuff we're working on to improve the bug fixes, the crashes, the instability, X, Y, and Z. So, right off the bat, let me go ahead and load up this map real quickly that I'm loading. And then I'll share my screen and I'll walk you through some of the things that have been going on with the Treasure Island map. So bear with me, it's loading up in the background, and then I'll share my screen. One of the biggest things that we're aiming to do going into the next couple of weeks, going in October, is getting to the point where you guys can go back and play on both the Half Moon Bay map, Pandemic, and the Treasure Island um, map. Now, what we're going to be doing is taking a layered or a staggered rollout, where essentially by October, we're aiming to basically have Treasure Island and Angel, Alcatraz, and then by December, it may be a little bit sooner. Because I was talking to some people, I know Subnautica did this, is that they would allow people to go to the other areas of the map, but it just wasn't textured. So people don't care that much. We could theoretically make the rest of San Francisco playable. It just would not be textured. You'd be playing in an untextured area, but you'd at least be able to see the evolution of going into December as those areas are textured and finalized and X, Y, and Z. And then we'll also be going over the main menu progress that we've had. I'm just loading up the map right now, so just bear with me so I can show you guys the week's progress. Because we have a lot to go over. We're going to have a co-op session around the midpoint of the stream to show off pandemic progress, show off the helicopters, the Hydra rockets, the miniguns, and that system, and then show off some of the recent changes we've done to pandemic in terms of the gas towers, the AI of the infected, and X, Y, and Z. So there's quite a bit to go over, and most of it is just going to be really quick drive-bys, and then we're just going to jump right into a session with Phoenix and Silver, and they'll be basically my like little test dummies to just basically demonstrate what we're doing here. So right off the bat, I'm going to share my screen on Alcatraz. I apologize for the delay, but you can kind of see the direction that we're going into for what Efren's been basically kind of laying out since last time we met last week. I'm just giving it a couple seconds to finish up some shader compiling and some nanite landscape updating. So since last time we met, he's been kind of playing with some of the sizing, getting the roads in, and been putting a lot of time in just kind of getting the bridge assets in and making sure they're all set up. And then the biggest thing was also figuring out the verticality in terms of how much he wanted to actually like allow people to go in and out of. Now these tunnels, I'm still on the fence about making them maneuverable because it's not really a fun gameplay experience to like have that unless we do the see-through thing. So that just might be blocked off. And you have to go around, and we add like a little like thing of going up and around. I don't know. We're gonna have to experiment with that, but it's been one of our major goals. Oh, it's in shader compiling. It's been one of our major goals to get the Treasure Island back to what it really looks like in real life. In terms of basically like, so it actually looks like a real place. So you can see when slowly and surely just kind of retrofitting and getting this with like the holes cut through, and then like the high end housing up here that trickles down to over here, and then the police station here, that will have to be moved down to right here. But that's kind of been the progress that he's been doing, kind of laying this out. At the same time, he's been kind of processing through and auditing and cleaning up hundreds of assets that we've earmarked in the SDK that needed better collision. And basically just kind of finessing the navigation and everything else. I'll show you an example. Is that you figure like, oh, you know what? I don't think navigation is built on this map, but it's built on the other one. Is the idea is that you go through and you build navigation to kind of see how each object is being like updated, and then from there you have to go and double check the assets. So he's just kind of going through and just kind of getting all this situated. Definitely, I think we're gonna have to tone down the verticality here because that's just too tall for an RTS game. If I have to do half of that, I know we're gonna have to experiment with that. There's going to be some technical challenges of hills and verticality. Because if I go and I play into the map, let me just skip those error messages. Give it a second to load everything. Bear with me. So he's essentially just kind of establishing the broad strokes and trying to figure out how high things should be, how things need to look, where his weenies are. Disney coined the term like 50 years ago, whatever. But the idea is your weenies are your vistas or your main points that you see, like in Last of Us or Uncharted as well, where it's like it's the objects in the map that give you a waypoint to know where you are visually, so you can navigate. And when games don't have good weenies, you just know landmarks. Everything's copy and paste. Everything is not humanly distinguishable. So you can't figure out, oh, that's the Oakland Bay Bridge. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Or like it's just a generic bridge, or, that kind of stuff. So you can kind of see the direction here of what he's doing. Like I mentioned a week ago, we're gonna leave this airfield for the longest part the way it is now, but we might end up shrinking it to be the total size of this, and then just cannibalizing the airfield into San Francisco North over there. So that is something that we're looking at in terms of basically long term. Actually, hold on. I need to bring up something and put it over here because I just realized that I can't see YouTube chat. So bear with me one moment because my OBS is being weird. Okay, that's fixed. I'm so sorry, YouTube chat. Now I can see your messages. So you figure, yeah, that's basically the idea of like Treasure Island that we're building. So the idea is it's going to be a staggered rollout where we would make this island here playable and that island here playable, and then San Francisco North would come online over subsequent weeks of like, okay, like we just have a point where like you couldn't cross this bridge for maybe the first version, depending on just how much work still needs to be done over here. And we just have like an invisible blocking volume. And then a couple weeks after the initial version, we delete those blocking volumes and allow players in Chelsea to spread in those zones. But the biggest thing is that like we want to make sure that like, because right now the infected don't have a mechanism for getting across bodies of water besides bridges. So it's just one of those things that we're just kind of like, we don't want to do it. And then like, oh, look, they can't get to you. They don't know how to go over there. Your carrier doesn't move. So as you guys have noticed in the rebuild, the carrier doesn't move yet. So we're moving back to that slowly but surely as we go to the rebuild and just kind of tackle everything. So worst case, it would just be this island's playable in the first form. And then we close off a small area around it. And then eventually we'd release Angel. And then eventually we'd release San Francisco North as we catch up on the backlog. And we make it to where the Leviathans are in, the birds are in, and they have methods of getting around for like zones that aren't connected via a physical bridge. So just keep in mind, those are all things that we're looking at consciously before this map is released, because this map introduces issues or game issues that are like not present in the other map. It's just one continuous body of a map. And that was another reason why we did HMB Half Moon Bay, was to keep it more concise and more limited in scope, so we can basically perfect that and then move it up in phases instead of trying to do what we did previously. Let's just do everything at the same time, blah, 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 blah. Like, had we not done Horde first, we wouldn't have had the foundation to do Pandemic, so Pandemic would have taken 2 to 3 times longer. So it was a staggered stage rollout. I know we got shit for that, but there was no other way around it. I am for one, am glad we did Horde first. It would be impossible to do Pandemic and the base fundamentals of the game at the same time. It would have been completely and overly overwhelming for 2 programmers. So what I noticed going this time around by doing the Horde first and then going on the Pandemic is it made it to where a lot of the base systems were programmed. And it was just a matter of just finessing and editing some things here and there. So now we're going to show you the progress that we've had on Alcatraz Hub. Let me let that second load. And then I can hit the play button and load in. And then you guys can see what Dimitri's been doing. So Dimitri's been basically just kind of working through his deadline of essentially just getting the hub situated by October, ideally. That's the rough deadline they're working on, because Efren needs the help on getting the other main map back online. So his job is basically just, he's populated the actual like mission room I guess you could say. And the idea would be if we're going in the direction of similar to what Helldivers does. So like if I go to like cameras, people that are playing in RTS, as they're changing the options in Pandemic and Horde, this computer screen changes and that computer screen changes. So the idea is in that way people can plan what they're going to be do. We want to go in the direction of Broken Arrow, where the idea is that long term, this tactical computer would render like a 3D visualization or something like that, and then you'd have the map, and then people could put location markers on it, and then that way, as you're going into Pandemic, let me go to Horror as a better example. As you're changing it here, it would change the mini map here and the map on the holographic screen, and then that way operators can go around the screen and plan out what they're going to do. RTS players would have another camera perspective that they can switch to. That would just show that. Maybe we just kind of adjust this one. But the idea is in that way, everyone can kind of plan a cohesive mission together and kind of get an idea of like, okay, like Team B is going here, Team C is going there, Team A is going here, and you guys are in reserve. Because, like, for instance, earlier in the week, I think it was Riffiel or a couple other cats, is that they ran like I think like an 8-man team on the Discord, and they had it like full on fucking. They were going hard. Where like it was one person that was calling out the shots, and then all the other like 8 to 9 people were basically just following the orders of like, okay, like let's get these little birds in here with the miniguns. They're pushing this front. We need to worry about the gas towers that are expanding. Let's retask these units. Let's get the operators in that grid. You know, that kind of thing. So that way it was like a joint effort from all of the players coordinating and communicating to basically try and counter the infection spread in Pandemic. So that was great to see. I joined at the tail end for the last maybe 30 to 40 minutes, but they had been playing for a couple hours from my understanding. And the group got pretty large. So keep in mind, for the people that are looking for people to play with consistently for co-op, I would highly recommend that you join the Discord and check in, and maybe start posting in the looking for group channel on Discord or any other option to basically be able to kind of form a party to play with randoms, because people are super friendly on Discord for like, and I'm going to be hosting a game after this. So after this stream, I'll host a co-op Pandemic session. I'll release everything that I'm going to show, and then anyone can join. I'll be recording it on Twitch as well, so I can put it up on the YouTube channel later on. So keep it PG-13 for the people that do join the voice channel after the fact. But anyhow, let me just show a couple other things for this map, and then we're going to get on to the demonstration. So you can see he's been kind of just filling in this lab, and then more detail work over here, setting up these areas here, setting up the actual like little prison terminals that they would have here. I'm going to really quickly drive by this because you guys can export at your own leisure in the current build. He's been just kind of going through and just kind of fleshing out and getting these doors in, just kind of blocking it out, getting the skeleton established further in layers. So there's that. Incredible amounts of detail, basically just kind of getting the awnings up there set up and just everything else. So that way, this is like your de facto hub that everyone's going to come back to and plan on and basically stage on. So there's that. And I mean, nothing else has really changed besides just this wing here and these areas here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into a test map and show some of the more isolated elements that have changed, and then we'll show it all together. So I will go to the spitter projectile test map. And then let me go ahead and grab these test units and move them out of here. So go over here. Give me a second. I got to mark the build public for the people that are going to be showcasing the game. Yeah, that update just went live. Okay, so the people that are going to be showcasing, check your updates because we're going to be doing it in the next 10 minutes. So if I play here, you're going to notice that there's a gas tower now in the game, and there's a lot more ambient sounds. So if I unpause, and then I F11, actually, you know what, let me tell him to stop shooting. Yep. Let's see. Oh, I left one. Get out of here. So if I zoom in, you can hear the actual sound. So we did the audio pass. Adding in the ambient sounds. Let me shut up so you guys can actually hear it. And it expands with the radius of the circle. So even if you don't see it, you'll hear it. Now let me delete that generator. There's a spitter sniping it. This is my test map. That's one of the other effects we put in. Is for explosion effects. It actually does the explosion. So now you can hear that through the fog of war, like you did in Legacy. And then the other important thing is that these structures also have ambient sounds. You can hear the infected, basically like the ambient loop of them being built, or just like something that gives ambience to the structures themselves. Some growling, like what we did in Legacy, essentially. And then this one has some like really scary sound effects that are kind of, it's like screaming and like random like squirms from this one. So that one's kind of horrifying. And then you can see the other system in play, where the oxygen infection system is back in, where the idea is that you figure scientists have the highest oxygen tank level, and then everyone else has less. So you can see right now it's draining from my oxygen tanks, and the gas masks are back in. So if I zoom in on little Timmy, he has his gas mask. And then he has until that white bar runs out. And then when that white bar runs out, he's going to start taking infection damage. And when his infection damage runs out, then it's going to basically kill him. Or rather, it won't kill him, he'll convert to an infected. For sake of time, we're going to slow-mo 5 so you can see it. Let me do slow-mo 10. We tried to be kind of generous for the time, but we're going to be balancing that time going into these public playtests. So let me unpause it. And then you're going to see the red bar is being bled, which is basically now it's through, he's out of oxygen. It's directly affecting his infection level like it did in Legacy. And when that red bar hits 0, he's going to turn. There you go. So now they turn, and then these units are going to shoot them. Oh, wait. Let's make sure they're actually going to shoot them. So the animation is definitely a little too long. And there is some oddities that we're investigating when it comes to like some units are, oh wait, those units were on hold fire. I'm stupid. I'm sorry, this is one of our debug maps. So we have a lot of weird things set up to test and benchmark the game. So now they're shooting. I didn't realize that wasn't a bug. That was just because they started in hold fire because we were testing some issues with their hold fire functionality where units would blink out of existence depending on if you were set to not target some structure types. You'll also see that right now the operators are not infectable. We're going to be changing that going into Saturday or Monday. Just keep in mind, for right now, it's an exploit, we know, but there's some technical things that we need to work out from a back-end standpoint before we allow them to be infected. So just keep in mind, your operators are temporarily invulnerable. Now, these guys are, you can see they last double the length because they have a closed circuit system. And they also have, like, they have that closed system. And then they have like the actual oxygen tanks and all that's close. So you figure the scientists are going to be your best units for clearing gas contagion zones and basically just getting in and out. So like if I move over here, one of the other issues that we ran into quite a bit with putting in the structures that plagued earlier versions of the game was the way that units targeted and just kind of did combat. As you can see right now, that Spitter's in God mode. I need to get rid of him. Sorry. We're going to just go ahead and play again. And then I'm going to slow-mo 10. Get rid of you. Go to the radius over here. And we're just going to go around this corner. And I'm going to show the other system we put in. So you're going to notice right off the bat that does that. So they just kind of do like a weird, well, not a weird, it's a cool little blood effect. And I'm waiting for some final changes. Because that's basically the blow-up guy effect slightly altered. We put that in there as a placeholder, but you figure like that is the proof of concept that Dimitri is going to be tweaking going into next week. Is he'll make something more finite that's more gushy and explosive based off the scale of the object. So that's something I did going until earlier last night was setting that up. So then that way when you destroy structures, like our structures just blow up. And then they leave a little scar mark. And you can see this one's not really sized to the size of the object. Like that should be larger. So like you figure those are small little things that we're going to be working out with Dimitri going into next week to essentially make them unique for the size of the structure. So we can pass through an argument that dictates like, okay, like this is the bigger structure. So we need a bigger impact crater. We need a bigger like smoke. What I want to do is I want to do so that way, like, okay, like think about it from an immersion standpoint, is that you're looking in this direction. Like I would like to have it to where smoke can permeate or stay in the world for up to 60 seconds for when a structure is destroyed. So then that way your allies and your friends could basically look out from like any part of the city and they can see, oh, that base is being destroyed. Oh, that base is like on fire. Because then that way, from an immersion storytelling aspect of things, whether they're operators, whether they're RTS, just looking around the map, you could get a quick gauge of where are things going worse without always having to communicate. So you see a bunch of smoke plumes and stuff in the distance, then you should probably get your ass over there. You know what I mean? Even if they're not communicating to you on voice. So that's one of the things that we're doing. Now, technically, there's a bug in this version, which I'll just show you guys right now, is that if I build a wall, I didn't have time to fix this one variation of it, and then I upgrade it, it blows up in place because technically we're destroying the object to replace it with another one. So we do know about that bug, and we're going to have to fix that going into tonight. It's just funny, but it's something I'm going to have to fix. So just be aware of that. Here be dragons for the early test version. You can also notice those units have infinite ammo. There's a bunch of like crazy debug stuff going off on them. But sometimes when we do play tests, we need to test things really fast and really efficiently, so we can work on other subsets of gameplay. So what I'll do is let me just show this on my pandemic test map. This is the last thing I'm going to show. Then we're going to get into the play test. I should have stalled long enough for everyone to get the build updated. So we're going to delete these little birds for right now because we're going to save that for the big main course. So Phoenix is going to be running attack runs on the little birds on the map. But one of the things that we set out to do this time around was to make the infected a hell of a lot more intelligent in terms of how they source their locations to a target. So you'll notice that as you build structures, this will only be visible for a little bit longer in the debugs in our little like raw editor, is that every time I place a structure, it's going to ping the system and create a dynamic move point that's on the navigation mesh. So then that way, the idea is that they're going to try and turn your bases into basically fobs so that they can understand what they need to move to attack. So like if I build over here, they would make a brand new red box, and then they would associate that the zone C has a base here, a base here, a base here, and a base here, for example. And then that way the system would break it down into digestible chunks that the AI could basically take that and know, oh, this is the center of the base. Let's move here, kill everything through that. And then as the base shrinks, as the base gets larger, and the system would dynamically determine, oh, like we need to move this around, we need to do this, we need to do that. So you can see every time I add a structure, that spear is changing. And that's generally, if they try and attack anything in this box, that's what it's going to try and pull to essentially get like the perfect location that'll try and maximize kills, essentially, for the infected, for other factions. Now, one of the most important things that I want to notate based off of the Steam post that we did earlier in the week is that a huge fucking portion of this month, 99% besides the helicopter work, went into the faction manager, because the faction manager is the basis of every unit in the game that's ever going to be AI controlled, the rules and regulations of how they operate. So while I've been over here, Chelsea's AI, her faction manager, has been deeming, okay, let's put down her alpha pod, which is the coral reef one here. Let's build these defense pods. Okay, let's spend some money and get that defense pod set up. Oh, you know what? I want to deny the Cirque the ability to come in and just bitch slap me. So why don't I put a gas tower down as another barrier to entry in the early game? And then you can see right now she's placing down more of those defense pods from her AI. So it's the basis that AI think about, okay, what are my priorities? So this would extend to dynamic civilian groups. It would extend to anything. So like the idea is long term, hypothetically, when we get to that point resource-wise, The same way that the infected run off of this faction manager is the same way that the Cirque or a civilian group would run off of it. But we extend the underlying base systems of what do you do when you take a zone? What do you do when you expand to a new zone? What do you do to investigate someone fucking with you? What do you do to kill other people on the map that are your enemies? And how often do you do it? What do you have to do prerequisitely for all those things? And how do you manage your global population? Because in Legacy, that system was dog shit. There's no way of basically, making that sound nice. Anything that happened in the legacy build on the base thing was happenstance. They just happened to spawn that juggernaut. They just happened to spawn that standard infected, that blow up guy, that spitter that was just there in the right moment. That just happened to just put the ample amount of pressure to make you die. So the biggest thing about this system was counterplays, and just basically direct plays, where the idea would be is that after a certain amount of time, she's going to send out an attack wave, evaluate me. Okay, I know what they're doing now. Okay, so I need to build these units. I can't build these units until day 2. I can't build those units until day 3. So she works from the framework of what it allows her to do from a tactical stance. And then the biggest limiter for the infection is days. Days unlock special mutations. Days allow her to bring more infected into the fold. So the idea is that by day 2 or 3, she has more spitters, more blow-up guys, more brutes. And then by 3 to 4, juggies. And then you figure, 4 and 5 was birds and leviathans, give or take. Because around 5 and 6 is generally when the game would apex. And one of you was going to die. Now, in the current course of HMB, Half Moon Bay, generally most of the days that we've seen last 2 to 3 days, and then it's a wrap. Someone loses, someone wins. But the game is fucking hard. I will say that there's a lot of balance work that needs to go into basically just the infected, because they are insurmountably strong. Like right now, they're sending a 200-man army to prod and evaluate. What do we need to do? What should we send next? Do we send other people to attack from the side? You know what I mean? And this is the one issue that I will say is that we need to spend some serious time working on their threat analysis system, because you figure there's some stupidity going on here. In terms of they shouldn't have fixated these units. They should have killed these 2 and then worried about those. But those are kind of the small little nuances where it's that's what's kind of annoying the shit out of us that we need to kind of fix, because had they been more combat effective, they would have attacked these 2 first and then worried about these. But because of a bug in the threat analysis system, sometimes they'll fixate on the wrong targets. So that's just something that we need to kind of iron out and fix. Yeah, because that's fine. Because right now they're launching an investigation wave. Let's see if they're going to do anything effective. So let's slow-mo 5. Oh, you know what? That recent change might have that recent change might have broken it. So we'll have to go back on an older version, because you figure I put an experimental fix out and that made it worse. So we're gonna put the supporter version. We will roll that back to midnight, because that requires more testing. So hold on. So that would be this one. September 27th, and that was at... Oh yeah, technically that's right. So we're gonna have to roll that back. Okay. Yep. Okay, so the build that we released today has some fatal bugs in it that I'm gonna have to hunt down, because I was trying to fix some spitter issues, but clearly I broke something else. So I'm gonna roll that build back, and then we're gonna go into the actual demonstration. So people that were updating previously, you're gonna have to update again. Let me go ahead and go to my Steam and launch. It's going to download, and then we're going to jump right in. So let me see. I guess that's the only danger of doing it live, is that obviously things can be changed up to the very moment before a live stream, because we're always doing game design. We have no lives. So The problem is that you figure there's always that risk of something just kind of being weird. Um, so when it finishes downloading, we're gonna launch. Alrighty, and then I'll just start hosting a game, and then we'll play that for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then we'll segue into the Q&A, answer y'all's question on YouTube and Steam and Discord, and then just kind of go from there. Let me verify the build version. Yeah, that is the correct one. Because let me check the build machine. I think I indexed it to... Okay. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, okay, that looks good. All right, so then we will... Hold on. Okay, check one. Click. Yeah, okay. So I made a mistake there, so I'm going to have to update that one more time. Apologies. So relaunch it one more time if you've already opened the game, guys, because I accidentally reverted it to one that was a little too early. That was the cook that me and Michael were doing earlier, right before the podcast. Okay, it's installing. We'll just have to go off of that version for what we play test, and then I'll have to just write down some notes and figure out what's going on with the guard tower structure targeting system, because it looks like it affects everyone. And I have a theory on what's going on there. Michael, do you want to talk about what you've been doing while I do this?
I'm trying to fix my Steam's messed
Oh,
up
just
with
talk about the balance and the
launch
new mesh
now.
you've been working on.
So real quick on the balance, the biggest thing that I've been trying to kind of hunker down on is the spitters in terms of like the dot damage, what those do. I've been trying to figure out a better way to kind of facilitate vehicles versus infantry.
Yeah, that's
Something that
it.
me and Robert are going to powwow later on in the week is the different balance options that I need to be able
Hosting.
to configure with that. And so that would be along with the spread values for like the circ when you have them in helicopters. Their accuracy is like so precise. It's just
It's
not.
disgusting.
It's just not fair. Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. And then on top of it, adding a velocity change to the spitters when they're targeting aircraft to make them actually be able to stand a chance when you're strafing around them. Because right now it's kind of like ebb and flow in terms of like if there's enough spitters, if there's not enough, then that velocity is really going to hurt them. And then with that, we segue into the mesh. I'm still working on the standard infected variants right now. Um, Going to see if I can maybe finagle some stuff with some of the growth. I don't know if we have any of the concept on hand of the growth concept of the.
I can find some and put it up on screen in a second.
Yeah, when he gets that up on the screen. So that is really what I'm kind of working on right now. And in terms of going back on that, is a lot of polish work. I don't know if a lot of you have seen like the IK system and where it breaks in terms of the LODs. So that's something I've been hyper optimizing. I had to regenerate a lot of the skeleton meshes, and that took good. It's just busy work in that
I mean,
sense,
here's the
but
early mock-ups.
I had to regenerate. Yes. So those are the mock-ups. So I'm trying to see if there's a way that I can get it to look as close as I can to that in terms of growth.
So that's something he's kind of working through. Is basically just kind of getting those set up. He showed some early incubator versions earlier today. We're not going to show those because those are way too early, but they did look good from base value. But we need to kind of finesse that a little bit more.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Michael, we're just waiting for you. You want me to just start without you?
I just got a restart Steam. It was a
Okay.
sync issue.
Damn, I still haven't unlocked anything for the Ray K. Oh yeah, Michael put the AK in, the AK 105 in recently. So that got snuck in for the operator. I think earlier in the week you did that.
Oh yeah, that was it was like might have been no, it was last week, I'm pretty sure. It was like last week on
Okay.
Tuesday, I believe.
I think also notice that even like the MO tent and some of the other structures have ambient sounds next to them. So you figure that's a new thing that was put in as well. All right, Michael, you in? Phoenix, you need to do anything before we start? I guess I'll say something in chat. He's good? All right, so we're going to go into pandemic and we're going to launch.
Oh, I wasn't the
I didn't know.
gunsmith.
I asked. All right, so everyone has their assignments. Michael, why don't you do the operator to demonstrate that aspect? Because I know that's your forte. And then I'm going to be basically just kind of observing and just kind of basically being the commentary. Now, Phoenix is going to be taking the aggressive counter push. He's going to be basically running it kind of dangerous, living dangerously on the edge. And then basically everyone else is going to be basically setting up a fob and essentially just trying to stay alive. So right off the bat, we just turn down the audio. Right off the bat, you have them splitting up the little birds for their split push. One team is going to go to their section. The other one's going to go into the encampment in the back. I guess someone didn't put the winners on correctly. Awkward. So now they're going to take off. And you have Phoenix going off to his normal base, which typically he goes to Ironworks. And then Silver goes over here to the purple region. And then you can see everyone's cameras. Keep in mind that you can change that under gameplay. If you don't like player drones, you can turn them off. I love them because then I know what people are doing and what they're thinking. So we put that in there as an option because some people thought it was kind of silly. And until we have the resources and the manpower to get those properly modeled with a quad chopper, it's just going to be the scout drone for the time being. So there's Silver on his way. For the sake of time, I'm going to give people money. So we can basically just really quickly demonstrate and show the mechanics and play. So you have Phoenix over here doing his thing, landing at Ironworks, setting up his base. And then you have Dark Silver over here, setting up his initial base and just kind of getting everything measured. I'm going to kind of help him out and land the little bird and turn off the engine so that way it doesn't consume the gas. And then I'm going to go over and see if they did the same thing. Yep, he already did it. So then you can see at this point, Chelsea has taken Union Row as her primary location. She set up an initial gas pod. And that's going to slowly grow to maturity to basically lock down that position so you can't immediately rush in and just 1-2 puncher. Falcon puncher in the gut. So you figure now Dark Silver is basically going through and just getting his entire base set up. Let me go ahead and turn it up a little bit. So while he does that, let me go ahead and a little bit. While he's doing that, let's see.
Right now, in terms of joining right now, it's locked right now for just this.
Yeah, we're gonna open it up in a second. We're just demonstrating this for a sake of speed of pandemic playable working. It's not fake news. It's a real game because you figure we could play this for we play this for 3 to 4 hours on Discord almost every day now, just hunting down bugs and just basically just writing down what needs to be done. Talking to people in the voice channels and just figuring out what are the most prevalent bugs where we need to focus our efforts on. So you can see Dark Silver is kind of locking down his position because eventually the infected are going to find us and they're going to attack one of our bases. We don't know which one. It pretty much just comes down to whoever is the most unlucky. And you can see right now is the power deficiency that he needs to solve by putting in another generator. It's negative 25. Now I have debug running for only the host. So then that way people can give me actual actionable intel when they're breaking and when they're not breaking. So you can see that she placed down her initial gas tower. Her zone is spreading. She's expanded into Falcon Field. She has a couple of additional areas here. She has probably one pod in Civic Center right here. And that's one of the things that we're going to have to definitely just kind of tweak going into next month is the pace and making it configurable. Because it stands right now, we've been so focused on the bugs and the helicopters and the basis of their shooting that we have not gotten custom game options. At that point, there's two things that we need to do after we get the helicopters finalized and get all the remaining aspects of them in. Is number one is the activity log. Number two is the custom game options. So in that option, because I can't tell you how many times we're playing with people online and people want to know who just spent all the money, who just bought that weapon, who just built this wall. So the idea is like some kind of activity log up here on the top left. People can toggle on and off. That would literally save everything that's been done in the game and who did it. So if someone's spending money, you know who did it. Someone bought a weapon, X, Y, and Z, recruited a unit, whatever. So you can see right now, Phoenix is basically building the helipad. And we added in the pilot, scout drone, Sparrow, Sharon, and the Merlin. There were quite a few issues that we've been wrangling and hunting down with bug reports predominantly on Discord of issues with the garrison system. The Merlin introduced a different way of doing garrison because the units are actually put in a virtual box and hidden. And the idea is that we had quite a few bugs pertaining to just how that was working. So we went through and cleaned that up over the course of the week. You can see that right now they're doing a push on Silver. They've destroyed his walls and they're going in for a gut punch. So let's see if he actually survives. I'm going to just help him out and throw a flashbang. That's one of the other issues with the threat analysis system, is that they fixate too much on entities that don't matter. That's something that we need to fix going into next week. Before we even work on the ground vehicles, like I mentioned on that Steam post, like we need to custom game options, and then we need to spend ideally 1 to 2 days reconstituting aspects of the AI where they just aren't nearly as efficient as we'd like them to be, and add a little bit more nuance to the spitters and the standard infected in terms of how they do their target analysis and their threat analysis. Because what works for a Circ is not necessarily the correct way of doing it for, say, a standard infected or a spitter. So we're going to have to take the basis of how we calculate enemies and threat and override them for every enemy type and variation to add more nuance to when they decide to attack versus projectile versus melee, depending on what's available to them. So you can see that in this case, Phoenix decided to come over with his little bird that was armed with the miniguns and the rocket pods, the Hydra, well, the M260 and the M134. And right now he's just kind of doing a patrol of running around the map and seeing just basically what are the problems. Does he need help? Do I need to go back and like do some hit and runs? Now, the interesting part about this is that if you use the little birds too often, they're going to adjust their strategy. So initially, you'll have some success. You'll kind of be able to basically like bring them to heal, but then they're going to counter you with spitters. And then eventually when the birds are added sometime next month, they'll counter you with birds. So between those two, you have to basically kind of leverage. You use one strategy too much, then they're going to basically find a way of calm you the hell down. So like by him attacking this pod, he's just basically showed his cards. They now know he's building little birds. So now they're going to start putting out orders to build spitters in the next 30 seconds and then send out investigation waves. There's one right now. So that investigation wave is comprised of spitters, standard infected to clot up the damage, and spitters to counter the little birds. So you actually have to use strategy of using like selections of like, oh, I need to select my little birds. Oh, see, there they are now. So now they're like, get the hell out of here. So either he has to basically essentially dodge the spine throwers, and at the same time he has to worry about dodging the spitters because the spitters are going to snipe him and try and basically get him to calm down a little bit there. So now he has to retreat and kind of figure out like, okay, do I bring in more little birds? Do I send in some ground units? Do I put some units on the rooftops or maybe like because you can play with this. You can work. You can make this work for you. You know, like there's no using one unit should not ever be the end all. It should be a combination of using pros and cons area units. Now investigations are launched based off of their best guess of where are you. So if you kill someone here, they're going to place a marker down. Then the faction manager is going to flag that area for investigation. Are you still here? So if you're still here, ambush them. So the idea would be is when they send out these units to investigate here, you can have you can have like some assaults and snipers over here. They sent in a team to counter those last units that they were operating off of. That's what you're using. And then you kill all of them with another team or another group that was set up for an ambush, and then you disappear. You have a little bird or a black hawk or a chinook immediately pull them out, or you counterplay for when they send out another investigation is the idea. Because investigations are their ways of defending their zones and essentially applying pressure on you should you keep killing their builders. So like if that's the one exception, is if you keep killing their people, their pods, their structures, their units that are outside of an attack wave, investigations are the response to that. Attack waves are basically the gradually scaling attacks that they send out, but the faction manager says, okay, we're going to rate your bases, and then we're going to go all in on some bases that we know we're going to win no matter what. So right now, they're really fixated on Dark Silver. They don't like him. He's offended them. So eventually, they'll come to the conclusion of like, okay, maybe this isn't working. Let's go screw him up. So the idea is as the passive infection's spreading, if you're not pushing them back. Right now, Phoenix is overdoing it in terms of trying to attack points that don't matter. Realistically, he should be doing hit and run attacks and pushing the left front back. Now he's overextending on the right, but they've already solidified themselves. So theoretically, in this case, it looks like he sent it over to actually help out Dark, get some pressure off of him. So if I tab target, you can see that he's basically just kind of laying into them. So trying to keep some pressure off of him with the miniguns and the grenade launcher. There definitely needs to be some improvements to the visual effects for the Hydra rocket. See, Spitters took his ass out. Right here. So you figure he has to kind of keep a situational awareness of where are the Spitters and set the little birds only target special infected, or at least prioritize the Spitters first and then go after them. So in my mind, the greatest strategy that he could have taken was fuck Silver. What he should be doing is he should be building little birds and pushing this lane, because if they surround both bases, they're done for. Because then at that point, they're already doing it. He's probably dead. They outplayed him. If they get enough units in that base before he can get those little birds there, he's dead. His base is gone, and now he has to fall back on this one and pray that that base is not destroyed. So that's the thing, though, is that they're going to try and exploit advantages, and they're going to try and fill holes in. So what he should have done was that he should have taken his little birds and rammed them up this lane. And he should have made sure that they don't push down up to past this point here. And then he should have built fobs. A fob here, a fob there, and a fob here. Then lock that down with guard towers and turrets and push the lineup. That would have taken pressure off of his base, because then they would have only have had one corridor in. This lane and that lane. Then Silver should have pushed that lane up, and then they could have made basically a contagion or a quarantine zone from this area to this area. Then from there, they could have decided however they want to tackle the next thing. Because there's a problem now, and they're not realizing this, is that the gas towers are going to start being put up in other locations. In 4 minutes, they're fucked. Unless they basically salvage the situation by getting an influx of cash, or taking some pressure off. Because in day 2, they can build more gas towers. Now, the AI prioritizes high impact locations for gas towers. So they're going to put one down here, and they're going to put one down here. That's going to irradiate both bases. So they're kind of screwed, is the grand scheme of things. So, like, you figure right now, they just expanded here and expanded here. What are you say, Michael?
Let's say Phoenix a moment.
Yeah. So you figure they're highly intelligent. They're going to exploit every pressure point they can find. So you figure, like, it might be too late to salvage it. You figure he has to push these zones, because if he doesn't, they're going to put a gas tower down either somewhere in Ironworks or somewhere in Breaker. And then that's going to force him that he has to destroy it or die, because they're going to infect the gas. The zone is going to spread over his zone, and then you figure it's going to infect everyone. And the same thing here is that they might go all in on one zone to just make sure it's just over. I don't know. They might build a gas tower here, and they might build a gas tower here, and make sure that Dark Silver has 2 points to try and counterattack. So either he has to launch a ground assault, or he has to launch an air assault, or a hybrid of it. They might build one here, they might build one here, or they might just go 2 in one location. With how the unpredictability of the AI, there's really no way of telling. But you can see right now, they're launching attacks on him and trying to basically put pressure on his base, essentially. Because he has little birds, they're prioritizing the spitters. Definitely going to have to change some of their attack algorithms, because you figure they should have already have broken completely into Breaker's Point and surrounded him, and then start spawning from here, here, and here, 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 and here. So I'm going to have to change that. Technically, they're only on day 1, so that actually, you know what? That's the day 1 limits. In 2 minutes, the gloves come off. So when it hits military time 24:99 or whatever it is, and then it goes over to day 2, it's a whole new rule set. Is that basically a lot more things that were like holding them barred, so they don't just have explosive expansionism that makes it to where players don't have any chance of succeeding, is going to basically, it's going to unlock more population, and it's going to unlock different tech for them, basically. You can see like they're kind of in Bayfront, but they're kind of dabbling. Like you figure until day 2 hits around, everything gets increased in terms of the max amount of pods they can have, how many gas towers they can have, how many units they can send out concurrently to expand. So it's rapid double growth. So they have minutes to turn this around, basically, in this case, which I don't think they're going to, because they're still just barely holding on in this outpost. And then the second outpost is not, it looks like he's trying to take advantage of the situation and counter push up the left lane. Realistically, they might have to take a route of maybe not even trying to attack the pods, but farming for money by attacking standard infected and other units that are around the map, just to make a little bit of extra money. Or they could take the strategy of taking other fobs, or building a fob here at the sock, and any location that's not taken, taking those zones, setting up small little outposts, and trying to farm a little bit more cash. They could even backdoor this sock with scientists and basically just essentially build it and then run away. Because normal structures don't take infection damage. And it would take them some time to allocate the resources to A, find it, and B, destroy it. So it's one of those things where it's like they have a lot of things working for them, that if they did a split push and they maybe had another player or another person running around in a little bird with scientists, mind you, drop off a scientist and an engineer, scientist for security, engineer gets in really fast, maybe 2 or 3 engineers, and just starts building random socks, build a couple of small walls, a little outpost, build maybe a turret, because that can't get infected, and then leave. That theoretically could give them the cash inflection to turn this around, but it's a high risk, high reward situation where they have to be willing to take the risk. Because if it doesn't pay off, they've burnt the money. So you can see in this case, he's just kind of going around and trying to harass, dodging the actual pods themselves, and trying to basically see what he can do. But he might be taking the wrong strategy in this case. He'd be better off sniping that gas tower, sending a team in to basically build at this sock and start trying to backdoor them to split their attention. So he's taking the strategy. He's gonna try and destroy it. Let's see if it pans out for him or if he loses both, because he has to dodge those actively. Let's see. He's being a little bit cautious here. Okay, he got it. Never mind. No, actually, no, he didn't. The fog of war hit it.
Tell me where to go.
Okay, he's going for it. He's going for it. Okay, he got it. So now, he theoretically could send over a little bird and and try and backdoor them at Falcon Field. Get that sock up. Get some initial turrets up, or maybe just land an initial incursion team, just to hold the zone, because they are overextended as it stands right now. They have a limited population just as much as you have a limited population at the end of the day. So they can only expend. See, there, I called it. If that pod is not destroyed in the next 3 to 5 minutes, in Bayfront, Dark Silver is dead. So you figure, and then they are losing Ironworks. We'll see. Nope. They salvaged it. They got those little birds back in time to basically save the day. Let's see if we can go over here, because like realistically, he has to push those sparrows in the Bayfront, even if they don't have that much ammo soon. Because that's the one thing, is that we made it to where the little birds have a logistics chain. But you have to land them, you have to refuel them, you have to give them ammo. You know, there's a replenishment time. They're powerful, but they have their pros and their cons in terms of basically getting them out there and doing what needs to be done, and then getting them back in, getting them replenished, and then going back to base, licking your wounds, and rinse and repeat. So right now he landed them by the helipad, and they're getting their ammo, they're getting their gas, and they're getting their health. So it's gonna heal them. So it's a full one-stop shop for everything helicopter. So it looks like he already sent out that little bird. Yeah, he did. He has to. Oh, actually, no. What is that? Someone sent a pilot? That is just wild. Oh, no, that's an operator. And that operator has a visual bug. Screenshot. Oh, wow. He's really... Michael, you really backdooring it right now? I wonder if that's going to work, because they just sent an investigation wave to punch you. I see a team on their way.
I'm almost out of
and then right there, AI. Now they've decided, screw Silver. They're going all in. They don't care. They'll deal with, basically that other base later. Their AI is deemed, they're going to put all their resources into this fob. They're going to destroy it with everything they can bring to bear. So they're going to send in their blow-ups, their standards, their spitters. They're going to counter everything you're trying to do. They're building 2 gas towers to split the players and try to create some tension. To basically, like, you have to strategize, you have to coordinate. In this case, it worked out very narrowly for them.
Tell me where to go.
But you figure, like, it's going to kind of, I guess, going to be like the test of time to figure out how well, if this actually is going to play out for the infected, or if they did just the right amount to counter them. Because you figure they don't have the Juggernaut, they don't have the Leviathan, they don't have the birds. And right now, I'm fixing bugs, hunting down AI fuck-ups, and just they put it back up again. They really don't like Dark Silver. So you figure the idea is that I was trying to get to the Juggernaut today or yesterday. That didn't happen. There were so many bugs and issues that they were reporting on Discord and Steam that I was like, I can't work on the Juggernaut, because it would make no point to put the Juggernaut in until their targeting issues are resolved, because that's a systemic problem. It's just going to make the Juggernaut stupid. So I might have to hold off on the Juggy, focus on other non-AI issues, and then me and Derek are going to have to collab and do that together sometime next week before we start on, basically, like, I do the Juggernaut and then he'd have to go do the ground vehicles at that point. Because you figure, did they destroy it? Maybe they did destroy it. They really don't like them. Let's see how this base is doing. surprisingly, it's hanging on. But you can see, again, they have to balance out their resources. They've been putting in pods to try and move the lineup as much as possible so they can launch attacks from closer proximity. So the travel time gets cut down. If they have to travel from here or here or here or here, they will do it. But they're going to slowly but surely creep up on you, encircle your base. That way they can cut down the travel time on you. And you can see there's a bug here. So this is one of the other things I got to fix going into next week, is that they are not nearly as efficient in terms of recycling units. So if I pause the game right now, you can see this spitter right here doesn't know what to do. Like, well, he's dead as fuck right now. But you get the point where every once in a while, you'll see a unit that basically just stands around. And it's because the investigations and the attacks need soft sizes instead of hard sizes. So the issue as it stands right now that I have to fix going into next week is make it to where, yes, this attack wave is 100 strong. That investigation is 35 strong. But if there are other units on the map that finish another task, that finish another goal, roll them into it. Don't kill them like they're equivalent of you killing your own units and delete them to save the population. Roll them into the next attack wave and send them on that investigation. Send them on that attack. And if they die, they die. Who gives a shit? At the end of the day, they're cannon fodder to send at you, test your lines, get data for the the faction manager, and then determine what is the best next course of action. So you can figure right now, he's trying to harass and get these guys out of here, but he does not have the money to maintain this. They lost so much in the beginning of the game that they're going to have to really, really play smart in terms of how they destroy these. Now, hopefully he's right-clicking these little birds and telling them to hit the spine throwers right off the rip. Because if he's not, then he's letting them auto-target. And as you guys all know, in an RTS game, auto-targeting is leaving it up to chance of, are they going to attack the thing I want them to attack? Because they could be hitting this pod for all he knows. So they are hitting the pod. So in this case, he'd have to right-click one of these, and they would immediately make them go boom. Because they have the rockets, and they have the other thing. How bad did he get? Oh, he almost lost 2 from that attack. So you can see this is one of those cases where I have to kind of figure out how I want to do their AI, because I don't want to make them too hard to the point where like it's so crushingly depressing. But there are some improvements to be made here and there in terms of like, I think honestly fixing the targeting bug for some of the issues that I've earmarked over the last like couple of days with them will definitely up the difficulty. I guess Phoenix is glutton for punishment because he's like, fuck it, I like the difficulty. But there are some use cases with, like, again, I mentioned this earlier about 30 minutes ago. There are small little situations where if they just did slight variations in their tactics, they'd be hyper efficient. Like fixating on walls too much when they've already made a breach. Or just how they go about attacking a guard tower sometimes if it's too closely built to a wall. Little tiny bugs that are cascading failures, essentially. So they're not like by any means like fatal. They'll cover eventually, but it kills the combat effectiveness of waves. So you can see right now, Silver's trying to like snipe it at that pod. So he's just kind of trying to figure out like how close can I get. Yeah, he's definitely trying to see how close he can get, but he's right outside the range of that pod's vision, or his heavy's vision. He could use a scout drone to extend it, theoretically, and then use a sniper to shoot it. If he really wanted to basically min-max that, he'd put a sniper right there, and then fly a scout drone over here, or over here, and then use the extended range, no damage to his heavy. Put an M107 on there, everything's dead in 5 seconds. So that's what I mean, we're like, there's a strategy for everything in the game, and you just have to actually think it out logically in terms of what is the best way of tackling this situation without incurring the maximum amount of casualties. Because there's always going to be a trade in every situation, unless you get really lucky. So there they go. They popped that one. They're trying to pop the next one. Now they've gotten lucky, and they haven't really built any gas towers. Oh, then they double down over here for some reason. So the AI is like, you know what? Let's just invalidate that area. Technically, on day 3, yeah, I'm definitely going to have to change that algorithm. I'll have to add some additional logging and harden it because they shouldn't have deemed to go here. They should have just built it here or here or here or here. That's a failure in their logic. Because you figure they were keeping the pressure up, and then they fucking fumbled the ball when it came down to it. But again, this level of AI is really sophisticated. There's no real RTS game that has this level of sophistication for AI. We've all played Total War, Age of Empires. Once you achieve critical mass for your units, the game falls apart. In terms of basically, it's just literally rock, paper, scissors, or just who has the biggest army. So we have to kind of like keep finessing it and changing it to make sure that we kind of get like the right nuance of like not too hard, but not too easy. And then making it configurable at the same time. Because you can see right now they're launching an attack wave, the prod, either his base or that base over there. They're launching an investigation over here. And they're kind of going around. Now you can see he's finally starting to close up his walls. So the AI pathfinding is telling the infected to go around. To basically kind of take advantage of that he hasn't finished those walls. Or he's built those walls. They don't want to risk being in that area, so they're going to flank. But there are definitely some improvements that need to be had here. Because in my opinion, this base should have folded a long fucking time ago. Like, I would say that the moment he overextended over here and sent over his little birds, the AI should have flagged this base for an all-in. And basically made him either come back or at least flagged it for a future attack when the population allowed. Like, send a scout in. Keep an eye on them. Like in the forest, where you'll get those, what are they called? Scouts, or those little like units that just kind of sit around and just kind of see what you're doing. So that way it doesn't feel cheap, or they're all knowing gods. But that's enough for right now. I think we've shown enough of the game to demonstrate the current form of it. These guys do play every single day. And I did give them that cash inflection, so that probably did help them out quite a bit for surviving. We're going to play a real game after this podcast on stream on my personal YouTube, and I'll upload it on the YouTube for people that want to see a full game from start to finish. And we're going to be taking on a strategy of quarantining the infection and basically having a joint effort of like, okay, these players are in charge of these zones, those players are in charge of those zones. You lose that zone, it's your responsibility to take it back, and then you request help from other players when needed. We know about this bug. We have to fix that. It's more of a cosmetic low priority bug, but it's something we have to like hunt down and figure out why that happens sometimes. Okay, so let's move into the Q&A part. I guess I'll leave the stream up for sake of just having a visual aid, so we'll keep playing it all the way up to the end of the Q&A. So, questions. YouTube's, Discords. Hit me with your questions. If you asked the question previously in chat, you need to ask it again because I can't scroll up too much without dying. So let me see if I can see anything right off the bat on YouTube.
Going
down. Okay. Bimmer asked, do we still have options to turn off the special units? I honestly enjoy the game the most when it's just regular zombies. I always turn off all special infected. Haha. So, for what just a review on that, that's coming next week once we get the helicopters to a point where we're happy with them. Now, we finally got to Little Bird to a point where they have the Hydra rocket and they have the actual like miniguns. They need maybe a couple of hours of fine tuning and some perfection here and there, but now we can roll out their changes to the Black Hawk for their unique configuration of weapons going into Monday. Then at that point, the only thing that's left is the Apache and the VTOL. So we'll get the Apache in, we'll get the VTOL in, set up its flight mode for massive speed and everything else. And then the Apache will be probably a day just by itself because it's the basis of the Abrams. It's the basis of the Bradley, the JLTV, the Hummer, in terms of basically, like if you have multiple weapons on a vehicle, you know, it has more versatility there in terms of independent unit targeting. So technically the Apache is a precursor to any weapon, any vehicle in Legacy that has more than one weapon concurrently that can target more than one person at the same time. So We'll be doing that for the Apache sometime this week. That'll probably be the major thing that inflates the amount of time. Phoenix, why don't you load a Black Hawk of veteran units? I'll give you a cash inflection of 30,000, 15,000. And why don't you, I'll follow that Black Hawk. Why don't you lead it in with a team of Little Birds, land them into a gas zone, and show the gas zone combat with Little Bird coverage. And maybe send Michael in as an operator. So Michael, why don't you get in, play as an operator, or I'll build you my operator, get on the Black Hawk controlling it, so we can show that working, or get on the skids of a Little Bird, so we can show that working. Which one do you want to do, Michael? The Little Bird skids, or the Black Hawk?
That. I lagged out and it's
okay,
locked.
so do you, well, what's locked?
Match,
There's
I
rejoin.
lagged out.
There's no password.
Locked.
I'm going to build an operator, and then I need a player to demonstrate that mechanic so we can show the hybridization there in terms of RTS, operator interoperability there. So I built Sarah. She's my operator. Michael's back in again. Do you want to do your operator, Michael? Okay, so Michael's going to do his operator.
Yeah,
I'm just going to cancel Sarah. And the idea is that they're going to load up a Black Hawk of people. There's going to be one real player on that Black Hawk that's controlling from a third-person perspective like in a division. They're going to land. Don't repel yet, Phoenix, because the operators can't repel yet. We have to add that in secretly sometime this week as like a line item. So that way when an operator is told to get out, they can get out and they can repel with everyone else. So while they're staging that attack, I'll get back to questions. Let's see. So that custom game options will come sometime next week after they get the rest of the helicopters in. So it'll be operator repelling. It's going to be the Black Hawk weapons. It's going to be the Apache weapons. Any last-minute bug fixes and little small things that break. Hopefully, we're out of the woods for the most part for helicopter and garrison bugs. We'll have to just see how it goes going into this week and what people report on Steam and on Discord. And then next question while they're staging. So, Bimper, the biggest thing is that the special infected were created to counter roles. You know, they're counter roles. Your sniper, your blow up, you know, your tank, whatever. Like, otherwise, obviously, you know, if you hide on a building all day, you know, you can't counter them. But if you guys want to turn them off, you're welcome to turn them off. Michael, are you in that Sharon? Are you playing as the operator directly?
No, because it wouldn't let me switch.
You have
when
to
I
go.
went to enter it.
You
Like,
have to
I lost
enter
selection.
it as the operator before it takes off. You could enter a helicopter by pressing E. So then that way you can control it from the perspective of the operator. It doesn't really matter right now. Phoenix is too late. Just go into his zone. He's not even sharing a screen anyway, so they can't even see the perspective. But when, what do you call that? Phoenix orders them to land, Michael will take direct control. If he was sharing a screen, he'd be basically able to see from the operator's perspective in that thing. I guess they're going to land somewhere over here. Now, one thing that we do need to work on is we do need to clean up, like, the pilots. You can't see the pilot's infection level. So the only problem with that is essentially, like, let me take off the helicopter so Michael can see his unit. I'll garrison the thing over here. Move it over there. And then you figure there's Michael, there's the heavies, and they're doing their thing, clearing out the zone. You have the little birds doing their thing, so we're going to push into the contagion zone. Little birds are going to be covering from the air. The Black Hawk is going to go and park itself off in the water. Actually, we're going to get it out of the contagion zone so the pilot doesn't get affected. So we'll park him on the aircraft carrier. And then you can see that basically the units are entering the zone. And basically the little oxygen tanks are taking over. If I zoom in, you can see that they have the gas mask on. And they're going to just go in and do their thing. You can see that Sergeant Phoenix is an example of an RTS player that just makes an operator as a customizable hero. So Phoenix has been leveling this guy up as a grenade thrower, person that can cloak, and also a medic. So this operator can be a combat medic. And basically, he's the hybridization of a couple of classes in the course of the game. Now you can see that right now, their oxygen's at half. So if we don't find that gas tower over here and kill it soon, we're going to die. Can we get you to go in there, Phoenix, and try and kill that thing before we get screwed?
Tell me what to kill.
And then Michael's trying to rush to it, but I don't think he's going to make it in time. We probably should have sent the Black Hawk in and just did a dive rappel run. So it's not protected. One of the things that I'm going to be doing going into next Monday is making it to where the gas towers are actually protected by defense pods, because it makes it way too easy otherwise. So you can see he's launching missiles, he's destroying it. You know, the units are definitely... I need you to dive that thing, Phoenix. There's no defenses on it. Because if we don't get it in a couple seconds, those units are going to get infected. There we go. Okay, you're good. So now you can see their oxygen meters are going to count back up, slowly but surely. I think you figure at that point, we could stage and attack a point over here. We can pull the Black Hawk over from the LHA-6 and land it in the field as a point to basically quickly retreat back to. And if I click on the units, you can see they're moving up. And what I'm going to do is add them to a squad. And I'm going to take possession of Phoenix's unit. Just to show that. Tell the units to follow me and follow right in. They can file in. And you can see there's actually a bug there. Is that the gas mask doesn't disappear if you destroy it while your units are inside. So we're going to have to fix that. Can we get some cover from the air for this thing? Phoenix, I'm going to flag it. We'll pull the aggro off of you. And if you take too long destroying a location, then they'll send reinforcements in to basically get you to calm down. So in this case, they might be overextended to the point where they can't call in help. So we might have gotten lucky. So if I pull up in the tactical map, Phoenix, can you find us another location in the area? And then mark it on the map. Use your little bird to scout, see if we can find anything else to attack before we can go back to questions. I'm going to order my units to follow me and fall in. We have to fix that visual clutter, because my God, I know I said we were going to fix that last Saturday, but we got backlog of bugs and other things. You might just have to put those up higher when you're playing as the operator only for the time being until we can figure out a more aesthetically pleasing thing. I can see that Phoenix located a pod 2 blocks down. So we're going to meet him over there and link up. I think, where's Michael? Oh, there's Michael. So Michael can join my squad if he really wanted to. And then at that point, we could see each other's health and track. He could know generally how many units are doing. And I can track his health. Like the idea is we got it off a squad in Battlefield. So you can make your own tactical squad at any given time and be able to be like, oh, Michael's about to die. My medics are about to die. You know, so that way you can kind of track and know what's going on at any given time. We have to figure out that jitter. That's a visual thing that only occurs on the host, the listen server host. So we have to look into that. You can see that Phoenix has already engaged the location and flagged it. We're going to need to put in some audio prompts that let people know when a location is flagged right now. Because had I not been paying attention, I would not have known about that. So right now, the heavies are going to move into position, take aggro off of his little bird. I'm going to open up on the M14. And now he has an opening to where they're not going to attack him if he gets lucky. So you can see in that case, we cleared out this city block. This is what you could be doing in terms of basically just kind of a joint push or effort to basically clear out the map, is having teams of RTS players running around and just doing their due diligence while the RTS players are bringing in reinforcements, supplementing their armies, because theoretically, if someone wanted to, an RTS player could add people to my squad, tell them to rappel in, add them to my squad, and then I can fold them into my army. Advancing is the idea. So that you get a joint unified effort. Or not. You could just do this. Go back to that, grab all this, and just play it as RTS, and just see it as that's an RTS hero. It looks like that bug is still there, is that the gas tower zone meters are not disappearing, but it is going up. I know for a fact that number is gaining. But anyhow, let me move back to Q&A, and I'll let you guys play. Control those units. What else do we have for questions? The LCAC is not in the Horde version. The LCAC was only put in as a quick, dirty way for people to be able to build units on the Horde map. As it stands right now, it's one of those things where, like, the LCAC and the aircraft carrier are not going to be in until we get the ground vehicles next month. And you can see that Phoenix's medic is running around triaging everyone, using his medic ability, automatically doing that. So you figure, just keep in mind that other ground vehicles are not the priority. We need to finish the ground. We need to finish the helicopters. We need to get the custom game options in. And then at that point, it's the activity log, custom game options, and then it's going to be any other minor bug, other crazy stuff like fixing up some of the minor issues with the AI. And then Derek's going to go work on the ground vehicles while I'm working on the save system and trying to get that functional in the first week or so of October. So that way people can save their games. Now you can see in this example, I don't know who told that Blackhawk to move there, but he's dead. That guy is gone. I don't know what's going on there, but they're missing some targets. Oh, there they go. So yeah, he's gone. I don't know why someone told a Blackhawk to go there. Let's see what we have for questions. What are you stuck on? Where are you?
Don't worry about.
How'd you get? How'd you do that?
I crouched. And then
You can't uncrouch?
If I
So
uncrouch,
you're stuck in a physics state. So press Z, leave your character. Or B, so I press B for Bravo. Yeah, okay. Don't know how that's possible. I'm just gonna kill him. We'll have to look into that. You have to rebuild him and probably brought in again. I'm gonna have to write that down as a bug. So you crouch. So I know what I generally know what that is. I'm gonna write that down on my whiteboard.
yeah, I was gonna try to get control of them, so I was trying to hit the button to get the group. I'm not even the group leader.
Falling state. You basically were stuck in the falling state. Something's wrong with the physics for clients. So we'll look into that. Okay, so let's see. So you can see in this case, they're sending out investigations to kill the horde, the units that are still here. Kill that pilot, kill these units. So the longer you stay here, the more you're in danger. Let's see what we have for questions. Any other questions that we have? So Feed asked about bridges, but that's not coming till next map. And realistically, that's going to be a thing. That's another reason why we're not going to release the other map, because it's other yet until we get those systems in. We have to perfect the base and the foundation on this map. And then once everything's perfect, once everything firing is on all cylinders, then we'd go and add the bridges and the water combat and like the other layers where it makes everything more complicated. So that way we can take it in a logical progression of getting back to Legacy instead of trying to do everything at the same time and then failing horribly. Because we're two programmers, so it's like there's only so much we can do in a day. So let's see what we have for questions. Doesn't look like there's that many other questions that we have. Let me see. Infection growth is something that is on our wish list, but I don't have an ETA on that yet. It's something we'd like to do, but of everything else going on right now, we're trying to just get the vehicles in and get it back to like what it was Legacy, and then do additional stuff like that long term. Is there anything else? So structure carcasses are supported by the game. It's just more so we don't have anyone to make them right now. So same way we have rubble mode for the walls, we have a rubble mode for structures. So technically every structure in the entire game has a rubble mode where, like, if you were to destroy an ammo tent, it could explode or break, and then we would have like a destroyed version of it. It's just more so we don't have the resources to do that right now. So it's something that we're have to look. It was programmed in there. That's why the walls support it. So that way we can potentially go to that in the future. So let me see if there's anything else we have for questions. Okay. Okay, so I think that's everything we have for questions. What do we have on the clock? 1 hour and 28 minutes. Okay, I'm going to basically just release this on the private test and the private test branch. So if you want to play with us, when we switch over to playing publicly, you're going to go to properties, and you're going to go to, where is it? Public playtest limited. Opt into that in a bit. Then I'm going to have to shut down the stream and then switch everything over. And that's where we're going to be going to playtest the game for anyone that wants to come. Again, don't be trolly, be polite, don't be crazy. We're just playing it for fun, having a good time, and talking about the game. So I hope to see you guys all there. Thank you guys so much for coming to this week's Circuit HQ. See what we were working on over the last week. We're really excited to get to a point where Pandemic is almost fully playable on our eyes, and that we're slowly but surely kind of inching there. If you want to consider supporting the team, consider checking out our Patreon, the support packs, pick up the book on Steam. You know, anything helps. We greatly appreciate you guys' patience, and we're slowly but surely getting there. And again, we'll be doing a playtest in the next 5 to 10 minutes on the Discord.